quiet because this is going to be like intense, like going over everything, okay? So the final is next time we meet. So we don't meet obviously next Friday because that is Thanksgiving. The next time we meet, which is going to be the next Friday, that is you come in, you take your final. So no lab coats, you can wear whatever you want. I mean, I don't think you're going to wear shorts because it's cold. But anyways, so this is pretty much it. The final is going to cover exercise 14 and on. So 14, 15, dissection 1, which was the muscles. 17, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Okay? That is what it's going to cover. It's starting with exercise 14, which is basically the, I don't want to say the anatomical, but the microscopic level of the muscle. You're going to have to know figure 14.1 from the book. So basically, that covers A, B, C, the different parts of the model. So you're going to have to know, for example, your eye band, your age zone, your C disc, your myofibrils, all that. Keep in mind, where's the model? Keep in mind that I was like, anyways, this is going to be the muscle model that you're going to need to know. So right here would be your neuromuscular junction, which is the junction between the neuron itself and the muscle. And then these blue little things that are going across, that is going to be your transfer tubule, also known as your T-tubule. You need to know that. And as you can see, there's a sticker, which means that that was a question on the past. So that should give you a hint that that will probably come up on your final. So like I said, T-tubules off of that one. You need to know figure 14.4 and 5, which are basically showing your sarcolemma, your endomysium, your perimysium, and all those coverings. Off of figure 14.5, you're going to need to know, for example, your synaptic cleft. Or not synaptic cleft, but synaptic vesicle. What is a synaptic vesicle?
Where the acetylcholine is?
Yeah, the fluid-filled membrane that is between inside of your neuromuscular junction, where the acetylcholine is at. And what is the acetylcholine? The neurotransmitter. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Also know, like for example, your quizzes. Remember that one question that is, what is the name of the structure that is the neuron and all the muscle fibers it stimulates? What is that? Motor unit. Motor unit. So things like that. So don't completely forget your quizzes because the quizzes may sort of come up during your final somehow or another. And the bonus are coming off straight off your quizzes anyway, so you should know them. Exercise 15, which was the actual muscle, so pat. And you're going to have, well, remember your abdominal muscles, such as like your rectus abdominis, your internal and external obliques, and things of that nature. Focus on the leg and the arm. And I know that's pretty much like everything, but it's like, no, for example, like the leg, don't forget your gastrocnemius, your sartorius, your biceps femoris, your quads. So I mean, just, look over majority of them. And don't forget the head muscles. So remember your orbicularis oris and orbicularis oculi. Those are the muscles that basically are going in a circle. The oculi would be going obviously around your eye, and then the oris would be going around your mouth. Okay. Your gluteus maximus, minimus, and all those muscles. I mean, I'm not saying the final is going to be easy or hard, but it's like common sense. Whatever we went over, it's not like we're going to try to trick you to ask the one muscle that we never went over, and it's like that's what we're going to ask. Okay. Dissection number 1, which was the cat. Keep in mind. That focus on the ventral side of the cat, like the leg. So remember, like your adductors, your gracilis, your what's the other one? The one that goes. I can't remember if it's the sartorius. The one that's like on the. Is it the sartorius? I can't remember. But anyways,
Which one?
the one that goes that's covering like the thigh.
Oh, it's asking the bone thigh?
It's the sartorius, right? Yeah. I was like, I think I'm right. But anyways. So sartorius, gracilis, adductors, and all the ones that are on the ventral side. And for example, like your tibialis anterior, like those are like easy muscles because it's referencing the bone, which you should already know, I hope, okay? Again, it's basically 14 or 15 and the dissection are basically the same thing. So like the rectus abdominis and all those muscles, it's kind of like reiterating the same thing. Exercise 17, which was the beginning of the nervous system. You're going to have to know the different glial cells, the ones that are in your CNS and PNS. Remember, there's 6 of them. So on the CNS, you're going to have the astrocytes, microglial, ependymal, and oligodendrocytes. Under the PNS, you're only going to have Schwann and satellite. You're going to need to know the definition of the term. So, for example, neurons. They're the basic unit of the nervous system, or the structural unit. You're going to have to know your reflex arc by, like, the back of your hand. You're going to have to know the 5 different concepts, so receptor, sensory, integration center, motor, and effector, as well as knowing, for example, if we ask you, where is the impulse being taken from the sensory? So you're going to have to say, well, the sensory neuron is taking the impulse towards the CNS, okay? And if we ask you about the motor one, then you would have to know it's going away from the CNS towards the effector. So it's kind of like you're going to have to think about it, and it's just not maybe a one-answer question. The neuron model, you're going to have to know, for example, your axon hillock, your Schwann cell, the node of Ranvier, your dendrite, and things of that nature. You're going to need to know, remember the classification, it can be classified based on structure and function. So if we're talking about like multipolar, bipolar, or unipolar, well, the neuron model that we have, that would be an example of a multipolar. The only bipolar neurons that we have, or the model, it would be the bipolar ones, which are the orange ones here, and they're found in your eye. Exercise 19, which was the brain. You're going to have to know both the sheep brain and the model brain, the one we have. So remember, like, bless you, gyri are elevations, sulci are like the little depressions in between. Gyri are the elevation of the brain, and sulci are the depressions in between the gyri. You're going to have to know whatever. Remember when we went over and I tested you over the brain, so like the longitudinal fissure and the what is it, median sulcus. You're going to have to know the lobes. So for example, your temporal, frontal, occipital, and all those. You're going to have to know the inner portion of the brain, such as your corpus callosum and things like that. Make sure you look at figure 19.7 and 19.8. 19.7 is basically looking at the meninges. So because we do not have a model that shows the meninges, you're going to have to know it off the figure. So make sure how that looks, and well, obviously you have to do meninges, your dura, arachnoid, and pia mater, but you're going to have to know how it looks on the figure, okay? For 19.8, you're going to have to know the different ventricles. So you're going to have your 3rd, 4th ventricle, as well as the central canal and the cerebral aqueduct. All that I just mentioned, you need to know off of that figure, okay? Because you cannot see that on the brain. So 3rd and 4th ventricle, central canal, and cerebral aqueduct. From the sheep brain, the arbor vitae, all of the stuff we went over, the optic chiasm or chiasm, however you want to say it, which is basically the X that's at the base of the brain, which is the crossing of the optic nerve or optic tract. Make sure you look at the olfactory 1 nerve. Olfactory 1. Make sure you know what that does and where that carries the impulse and whatnot, okay? So make sure to look over that. Make sure you know how many cranial nerves are serving the head or the brain, and that is 12 pairs. Make sure you know the different conditions. Remember, like meningitis, hydrocephalus, and then it can lead to encephalitis and all those things. Exercise 21 is the spinal cord, so make sure you know that model back there, which is basically showing the conus medullaris, which is a termination point, the cauda equina, which is the collection of nerves. Make sure you know this model, this one, the one with the dorsal root ganglion, the ventral root, the dorsal horn, the lateral horn, the ventral horn, and the funiculi, which is the ventral, lateral, and dorsal. And I know I'm talking like 100 miles an hour, so I'm just trying to get everything in. If you have a question, stop me. So you need to know that. You need to know that the fusion of the ventral and dorsal roots make up your spinal nerve. You need to know how many spinal nerves there are in the body. You're going to need to know the plexuses and what nerves arise from each plexus. So if we ask you, what is the largest nerve in your sacral? Well, that is your sciatic. Or in your femoral. Or in your lumbar. Well, that would be your femoral. And things like that. Make sure at what point do we start testing, like for example, the lumbar tab, it's usually below L3, which is where the spinal cord no longer exists. Make sure you know your white versus gray matter. Make sure you know the subdivisions of your autonomic system, which was on the quiz anyway, so you should know the parasympathetic versus sympathetic. For the second dissection, which is that cat, you should know your nerves. Primarily, there's not that many nerves, so just look at all of them, your axillary, your femoral, your ulnar, your axillary, and those nerves. Exercise 22, which was, I don't even know what it was, but anyways, just exercise 22. It's because I don't have the name of it, so.
Physiology.
Reflexes. So that you're going to have to know the reflex arc as well. Okay, so going back to the same thing, sensory, motor, integration center, receptors, and effector, and obviously that was not in order. I just mentioned all 5 of them. You need to know the difference between mono and polysynaptic. You're going to need to know the different instruments. So for example, the reflex hammer, which was used during what reflex? The patellar one, okay? You're going to need to know, for example, if the gag reflex is autonomic or somatic. So make sure I hope you wrote down the table that I wrote, which was divided between somatic and autonomic and the different ones under which category. Exercise 23, which was general sensation. You should know the skin model, which is basically showing the free naked nerve ending, which is the little alien hands at the top, your maze nerves versus your Pacinian corpuscle. The one that you cannot see on the model is the Ruffini's one, so you should look for that one in the book, which I believe it's figure 23.1. Make sure you know the different receptors, so extro versus intro versus proprioceptor, and where those are found in the body, and where the stimuli arises from. Make sure you know the stimuli, so touch, pain, pressure, heat, cold, and the things that they react to. The different terms like tactile localization, referred pain, adaptation, which was on the quiz, so you should be familiar with that. 24, make sure you know the model. So like I went over the lacrimal gland, lacrimal sac, the fovea centralis, macula latae, all those. Know the different tunics, so you're going to have your fibrous, your uvea, and then your sensory, in that order, going from outermost to innermost. Make sure, you should look at the sheet bag before you leave, so like I said, the lens and your optic nerve. Make sure you know the difference between myopia and hyperopia. You can see that on figure 24.9. Make sure you know the different charts, so astigmatism, Snellen. The plates test for color blindness, and the plates are the Ishihara plates. The conditions such as cataracts, glaucoma, conjunctivitis, and all those, make sure you know the definition for those. 25, which is the ear, you need to know the ear model, so I would take a picture of that before you leave and make sure that you are able to identify the different parts, such as your tympanic membrane, the external auditory canal, auricle, and all that stuff. Make sure you look at these, which are the auditory ossicles, middle ear. Right here, it's your oval window. We always test on that, so you should know that. And usually everybody gets it wrong. Where? At the bottom of the stapes is your oval window. Yes. And there's round window, so don't confuse oval with round. So that is the oval window.
Stapes, you said?
Yes, that is the auditory ossicle, one of them. You should know the tuning fork, the one I had up, the gray one. That is a tuning fork, and you need to know the name of that, which is the instrument that you use for today's activities. You should look into both tests, the nystagmus and vertigo. So write nystagmus and vertigo and look up what tests are used to test for those conditions.
Can you repeat that?
Write down nystagmus and vertigo. And then look in your book what tests are used to test for that condition, because those two are conditions, okay? Nystagmus and vertigo.
Oh, vertigo.
Vertigo and nystagmus. Does everybody get that? So you need to go back in your book and look what tests are used for those two conditions. Make sure you know the spiral organ of Corti. That is going to be on the test. I can promise you that. The condition, so presbycusis, which is what? Old hearing, I guess. And lastly, exercise 26. Make sure you look at the model. So the one with the tongue over here, and then this. Can you pick that up? That model? That one. Yes, you need to know that model, and you need to take a picture of that. That is basically showing the different papillae. And there's 3: the circumvallate, foliate, and fungiform. And basically know the 5 different, the sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and umami, which are the 5 characteristics that they test for. And that's pretty much it. Okay? Are there any questions? That was like, damn, I didn't think I was going to finish.